it's Yaron here at Iron.io, and today I'm going to show you what you use a queue for. So today we're going to be discussing when to use a queue. Now, if this is your first time doing this and utilizing a queue, then it might not be as clear to you when to use one. If you've used such things as RabbitMQ in the past or any sort of message queuing service, you know how to fit a message queue into your architecture. But even if you don't, I'm going to walk you through how to do so. A lot of times, web requests come through and work needs to be done. And this work is pretty repetitive if you're sending things out like emails. The only thing that changes is the user email, but the subject will stay the same and the body will stay the same except for the variable parts. So here's how we'd use a message queue. So let's say I have a bunch of emails. Here's email number 1. Here's email 2. And here's email number 3. Now, this is going to be going to 1@gmail.com. This is going to 2@gmail.com. And this is going to 3@gmail.com. Now, not only this, but we also have a name. So this will be Mr. 1. This will be Miss 2. And this will be Sir 3. All right. And we have the type of email. So let's say this is a welcome email for all 3. Everybody's getting a welcome email. The only thing that changes is the email address and the name. The body of the email will remain exactly the same, as well as the subject, unless you have any variable pieces. So this is when you'd use the message queue. What do? Here we go. We have a nice JSON body, and we pass in email, and we'll pass in the email address. We'll also pass in the name. So, if we do this, for every one of these, let's go ahead and change this. So, this one gets one, this one gets one, and this one gets one. Well, check it out. Here's what we'll do. Here we have 3 messages. Now, they all look exactly the same, sans the drawing. But if we were to open each one of these up, here's what we'd have. Email with an address. As well as a name. Let's just say it's user. Change it up a little bit. So now we have 3 messages, each with its own key value pair for an email and a user. So what does this mean for us? Well, if we have a message, we can just plug it into a template where it says to, and then it would just be message along with the email param. And we'd say name along with the message and the user param. And then we'd say email type. And this would be another piece which I forgot to include, but message and type, or email type, I should say. So when a worker or whatever is processing this queue receives this boatload of messages, it can simply grab a message, pull out the data, fill in the blanks, and send out the email. Now, you can do this a lot quicker than if you were to send emails out one at a time. Because what you could do is you could actually just grab multiple messages in tandem and just have the worker or the processor or consumer, whatever your terminology, go through these very, very quickly, since each one probably takes about 1/10 of a second to process. So normally you'd call a function. The function would send out the email and then move on to other things. This way, you call the function, it iterates over, and you save a little bit of marginal overhead simply because you're doing all three, one right after the other. So here's the reason to use the message queue. You have a lot of work that's very, very similar, and the only thing that's changing is variable pieces of the data. So all you have to do is queue everything up and then iterate over it very, very quickly and reduce the overhead that it takes for each single one by having multiple to process. So you're essentially buffering the work that you have to do by using a message queue. So if we had a message queue, instead of having each request coming in, so let's say we have 5 requests. So instead of having each message come in and get processed separately by the worker, right? So normally it would look like this, where each message hits the process. Instead, what we'll do is we'll reroute and we'll set them up, set these messages up on a message queue. And then what will happen is we will pull off the queue and then process. So instead of processing each one individually, we can process them all at once and much faster. And that's what you use a queue for. Be sure to check out some of our other awesome videos. I'm Yaron. Thanks for joining us.